Hello and welcome back to another video. I am so glad you're here. On this channel, I talk about news, controversies, drama on the bookish side of the internet, and I certainly hope you will stick around. So the subject of this video is a bookstagrammer that goes by Jana and her books with 206,000 Threads followers, and she also goes by Lady Whistle Threads. So she has a paid Substack, she's very active on Threads, and she became super popular for her weekly roundups of bookish gossip. And now she's the subject of the gossip. So before I get into this too much, I do want to mention that this video is based kind of around conversations regarding Harry Potter and its author, which I know can be very upsetting to a lot of people. So if that is you, I want you to please go ahead and watch a different video, and I will link one right here for you. I mean, I hope that you know me well enough to know what I think about that all, but it still can be triggering. So please take care of yourself, do what you need to do. So I'm not sure exactly how long she's had this going, but she has a book club that she runs on her Instagram that she runs with, I guess, a mobile bookstore called Beguiled Books. And for the month of July, she picked a pair of books that a lot of folks were not too happy about. So she kind of picked two books that have something in common. Now, one of those is called Rose in Chains by Julie Soto, and the other one is The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy by Brigitte Knightley. It might be pronounced Bridget, but the only person that I've known with the spelling went by Brigitte, so we're gonna just call her that. And why two books? This is something that she posted on there. Each of these authors started out writing fan fiction, and they have been joking about their books coming out on the same day being the Barbenheimer of the summer, because one is very dark and the other is a comedy. That's how Jana convinced Ashley to let her pick two, but she couldn't choose between them. While the earliest forms of these stories were Harry Potter fanfiction, you do not need to be familiar with Harry Potter to enjoy them. The authors have created their own magical worlds and characters for these original works. So I'm gonna let this TikTok by Don Martin kind of give you a more of a rundown of how this went sideways. He does, you know, a good job of summing it up.
Looks like Jana, the Lady Whistle Threads gossip girl, has just found out what happens whenever all those leopards you've been feeding finally decide to make a meal of your face. 2 days ago, Jana posted this little thread where she talks about how excited she is for those upcoming Hermione fan fictions that have been hastily scrubbed of their serial numbers, Rose in Chains and The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy. It is a full-throated defense of how excited she is to read these books. It's like, listen, if you don't want to hear about them, just don't follow me or mute me or something for the next week, because I should be yapping about them. Except then there was this little post right here. Here, let me just make that bigger for you so you can read it. Why do I support these Hermione fanfics turned traditionally published books? Number one, J.K. Rowling doesn't receive any financial compensation. Number two, the authors support transgender people. Number three, the books are no longer the fix. Everything that was Harry Potter has been removed. I wonder if the Jana from a few months ago who posted people like to argue about if fanfiction supports the author who wrote the original story financially. No, of course it doesn't. However, it does keep that person's IP or intellectual property in your mind, which might lead you to financially support the original. These receipts brought to you by this lovely book threader right here. In case you're like, well, the serial numbers are scrubbed off, maybe she has a point. It should be remembered that this is an example of one of the advertisements the publisher put up on Edelweiss, which is a program where booksellers, librarians can go and hear about upcoming books. So this is how it is being marketed to retailers as Hermione fanfiction. In fact, you will notice here that it's got statistics from fanfiction websites, and all of this space is being devoted to how it is a fanfiction. You don't actually get to the title of the book until you get right here. Same thing with Rose in Chains. This whole thing is devoted to how it is a fanfiction, how it is a popular fanfiction. Popular fanfic, big buzzy books, lots of money. Julie Soto, the author of Rose in Chains, specifically continues to refer to the characters in her book by their original Harry Potter names, so Draco. Authors Brigitte Knightley and Julie Soto have been doing this whole Hermione summer thing as though it's Barbenheimer, except for the Hermione fanfic girls. Loads upon loads upon loads of trans and queer authors have been speaking out about this for the better part of the last year, talking about how this is just derivative work of a problematic IP written by a bigot who uses her money and her platform in order to specifically target trans and queer people. People specifically has been specifically specifically using every single penny of the royalties that she gets to aim a giant bullseye at trans people, have also very loudly stated that any platforming of this IP, which includes derivative works, just goes to continue to platform the bigot herself. Which was an idea that Jana seemed to hold a couple of months ago. Loads of people have now called out the gossip girl herself, and this is the post she made out of it. I said what I said. Well, I think that this is an excellent time to remind you that if you make your whole thing being the gossip lady, eventually that audience is going to come for you because they're not there for you. They don't actually care about you. They just care that you're there stirring the pot, giving them some semblance of insider hidden knowledge that they wouldn't otherwise know. They don't care about you. They just care about the gossip. If you end up becoming the gossip, they'll eat your face too. This whole fanfiction to trad published pipeline is not only problematic for fanfiction spaces, but also problematic for copyrighted materials. But ignoring all of those ethical arguments, platforming Dramini fanfiction specifically continues to uphold and spotlight the platform, the intellectual property of a transphobe. Every single penny spent on it is a penny spent on Harry Potter-derived works. Do better. Don't buy those books. Buy books by living marginalized authors published in the last 3 years. One last thing. Instead of paying for that little Gossip Girl's Substack where she cobbles together secondhand publishing gossip for you to review, you could just follow authors. We'll yap. We'll tell you all the tea for free. And it won't be secondhand because we're actually in publishing. We'll just tell you what's going on. Thank you. Goodbye.
And before anyone says it, no, I don't see myself as a bookish gossip girl. You might think of me that way, but I know why I make these videos, and I know how much time goes into researching and putting them together, so shush. So as you might have guessed, those posts have been taken down, but I did my best to get them screenshotted from that TikTok. So after, getting a little bit of backlash for announcing these as her picks for her book club, this is what she said. I want to talk about Rose in Chains and the irresistible urge to fall for your enemy before they come out next week. First, if you don't want to read anything remotely connected to HP because the author has upset you so much, I totally get that. If you want to mute me for the next week while I talk about them, I think that says I won't be offended at all. Second, if you don't know why I no longer will give money to the creator of Harry Potter, it's because she actively campaigns for people to lose their bodily autonomy and freedom of self-expression in order to target transgender people. I was a huge HP fan, but now actively avoid giving her a single cent. I think everyone should be free to express their gender however feels best for them, including people who identify as transgender. So why do I support these Dramini fanfics turned traditionally published books? 1. JKR doesn't receive any financial compensation. 2. The authors support transgender people. And 3. The books are no longer the fics and everything that was Harry Potter has been removed. So unfortunately, you can see this is 3 of 5 and I could not find parts 4 and 5 of that thread anywhere. But moving on. So as is usually the case, she rolled out a half-assed apology. She says, Beguiled Books and I are not moving forward with our July Book of the Month picks. While I thought it was okay to separate books that do not fund JKR's hateful beliefs, I recognize that many people believe anything that could possibly promote Harry Potter is an active assault against trans rights. We're sorry for all the harm that our original picks and my Jana's threads post caused. In addition, we will both be donating to organizations that focus on fighting for trans rights. And a lot of people had stuff to say, most of them not great. There was immediately some backlash, and Jana then posted the following to her threads, kind of, I guess, I don't know. She says, hey folks, I'm out of town and unable to moderate my comments, so I shut everything down. I'll be back in a week. Obviously, I said what I said, and it was taken how it was taken, and people can say what they'll say about me. So then, it didn't really help. Because then Don Martin says, you literally did not think this a few months ago, or if you did, you were performing a very different tune. Why don't you go find something to do other than be the publishing gossip lady? You were bold in your I said what I said stance, and have absolutely crossed the line outside of reader space. This community is far, far smaller than you realize, and our memories are long. Someone else says, this is entirely insincere to me. Your Lady Whistle Thread Substack, which I followed for a while, outlined once that it's not okay to platform these books because of the fanfic to original IP or intellectual property pipeline and how it can lead people to financially support a problematic person. There were a lot of people affected by this who spoke up on it, and you came up with excuse after excuse for why you were right over everyone who stands to die simply for their identity. You restricted comments and then doubled down hard in a follow-up post you also restricted comments on, saying that it was taken how it was taken and that you said what you said. Flip-flopping positions for financial or social gain is gross. Transgender people are real people who face real consequences every day just for asking to exist as they are. And her hatred is spreading to the rest of the queer community. Where one of us is at risk, we are all at risk. You didn't want to hear us until it impacted you. And like I said, unfortunately, she deleted those posts, so I haven't really been able to find any of the comments on that initial post, but enough people have kind of said what was the deal that I feel like I have a good idea that she kind of was not listening to trans people in her comments. So, continuing. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't need a cis-het person to give me a long-ass reason as to why something is okay when the community it hurts is telling us it hurts them. And someone else says, I asked her why her disagreement outweighed the opinion of the majority of trans bookish community. Crickets. Ooh. And then we get a David Rose meme. So, are you still making money from those affiliate links for those books, or have you removed those too? Let me guess. More crickets. It's giving, damn, if y'all are gonna be so sensitive. Never mind that trans people have been saying this for years, but you never cared until you got called out and your money was threatened. I'd encourage everyone who has learned that these fanfic are HP related to follow more queer, black, brown, and indigenous creators. What a slimy, insincere response. Gross. Bros and Pros says, I'm really not here for the cis bookstagrammers telling people it's actually a rebellion against J.K. Rowling to read the Dramini books when trans folks have thoughtfully and relentlessly explained why these romances are keeping her IP alive. I enjoyed the irresistible urge to fall for your enemy when I read an arc earlier this year, and then I listened to the trans community and shut the fuck up about it. That author is going to be a success anyway. The book is getting 1 billion special editions and book boxes. You do not have to shill it yourself and pretend you're actually an ally. From when I screenshotted 2 days earlier and then 11 hours earlier, I'm still thinking about Lady Whistlethreads and her posts promoting the Dramini books. You can't claim to be an ally to trans people and then create a permission structure to ignore their voices. So you might remember a few months back, I made an entire video focused on an author named Emily Rath, declaring that her TikTok comments section was not a safe place for anyone who supports the current US administration. Well, here she is again, being absolutely iconic. She says, replies have been limited by Jana and Books, but this is too important to not discuss. The US and UK governments are actively coming for queer and trans people's throats. Our Supreme Court just made it legal for opinionated parents to opt their children out of any and all lessons that include glimpses of the LGBT experience. At the state level, they're banning our books, restricting our healthcare, and making it unsafe to use the bathroom. You can't deny that quite literally the only reason these HP fanfics even got book deals is because they are HP fanfics. Full stop, period. There would be no book deal if they weren't HP fanfiction. You also can't deny that the publishing houses and the authors have directly promoted these not a HP fanfic as HP fanfics, repeatedly. With these facts stated, you also can't deny that buying/reading these books actively promotes the HP IP. It puts attention and money directly into JKR's pocket. And these are actual graphics that were, made by the publisher and were, put out here into the world by the publisher. And this says, Romantasy meets an obsessed fandom. Rose and Change is inspired by Julie Soto's popular Germani fanfic, The Auction. It says how many, views it's gotten on TikTok and how many reads on an archive of our own. And, fans even created their own books. Posting covers of, her fanfic. And then we've got, some other popular fanfic books, but this is clearly saying oh, it came from a Harry Potter fanfic to market the book. And this one's even worse. What is Dramini? Dramini is the pairing of Draco Malfoy and Hermione Granger from the Harry Potter series. For those who may not know, Draco was one of the antagonists and Hermione was one of the 3 main characters of the series. Like with any fandom, people wonder, what if these 2 characters got together? And since Draco and Hermione are complete opposites, and because everyone loves a good enemies to lovers story, naturally this was a fan favorite pairing. The emergence of Dramini skyrocketed within the fanfiction community, which led to several published adaptations, including the forthcoming Alchemized by Sen Yin Yu, adapted from Manacled, setting us up to break out Brigitte Knightley at just the right time. And then we have, like, all of these stats about, like, this book online. Like, hashtag Hermione fanfiction, 925.6 million views. And Hermione fanfic, 173.2 million views. You know, it's, like, all there. There's so many just, like, stats for some reason. Like, they're clearly using this to sell their books. Continuing. Emily Rath says, there's a golden rule called it only takes one. This rule implies that it should only take one person from the marginalized community affected to say stop for you to reflect on the harm caused by your behavior and stop. Jana's comments are quite literally flooded with requests from the trans community to stop her advocacy of these books until she limited replies. Across all the platforms currently supporting these books, the people most affected are in the comments begging us to stop. When you don't stop, you're actively making a choice between protecting trans lives and protecting your own nostalgia. Is it worth it? As these governments make our lives smaller, is it worth it? JKR is directly, gleefully funding this pain. Is it worth it? Oh, and Jana also profits financially from promoting these books, which she didn't disclose, and that's gross. So, as mentioned before, Jana runs this with a local mobile bookstore, and so of course there are links all over to purchase the books from that store, which she would get a commission from. So yeah, she would stand to benefit from people reading these books and purchasing them from the shop she's partnered with. And until yesterday, she still had them at the top of her bookshop.org page. So, well, if she took them down, that's good, but... So while Jana went MIA for a few days, and I know she said she was going out of town, so whatever, I was able to find some screenshots of posts she replied to trying to defend herself. So TMD Reads says, do you know that a very large book talker picked up the HP series and read them, posting multiple videos over weeks because she wanted to read one of the major fanfictions? This is what the fanfics do. They keep JKR relevant. They help make a market for her works because people want to understand the source material. This was a young woman who had never read or gotten into HP, but because the fanfic was so popular in her space, she felt she needed to read HP. And Jana says, I see people, including big accounts, pick up the books all the time, and that's why I think it's important to continue to speak up against this matter. And then she, like, reposted a comment I guess she had made before about, like, the initial announcement, where she says, and finally, do I think promoting these books keeps HP relevant? Probably. But I think the new HBO show is also keeping HP relevant, and that will put more money in the author's pocket. So I plan to remind people to not support anything that gives her money. So that's kind of an interesting take. But so the book talker in question is Kiera Lewis, who is a problematic creator herself, but that's a story for another day. And she did a whole collection of TikToks reacting to her first read-through of Harry Potter, and obviously, the series still has a lot of fans, but personally, I believe that a creator with almost 2 million followers who is essentially endorsing it is absolutely going to drive more people to it that otherwise would not be reading it. Here are some more people's responses. You can say don't support JKR, but are directly contributing to support of her by platforming the trad published fanfics. I disagree, but I think I made that clear in my post about what I think the differences are. Yeah, obviously you're going to change your mind and are just going to disregard the community hurt by it. And Bookworm Panda says, I've been told that Roses still reads very much like HP, and it didn't do a great job of actually being able to stand on its own and be original. Urge never was fanfic, but the publisher chose to market it as such. These books don't need the free promo. There are like 10 editions of Urge coming out, and they're all fine. It takes very little to listen to the trans and non-binary community on this one and not share a book of all things. I have read both, and I feel like both stand on their own. That's the point of my post. There is nuance, and while JKR is an active danger to the trans community, I do not believe these authors are as well. I do understand that their connection to Hermione might make people not want to pick them up. So I think that's also important to tell people. I've seen multiple ARC readers read these without knowing and get upset when they recognize the Hermione aspects. Sweet as Fiction says, I can't stomach reading former HP fic books because I can't get the original out of my head and I just won't enjoy it. Plus, I wouldn't feel comfortable talking about it because, like you said, I feel it keeps HP relevant. However, I respect that not everyone sees it that way, so I'm not going to judge anyone else's choices. I feel like this argument could really go either way, so what do I care? And Jana says, I definitely get not being able to stomach it. I can only do ones that are really far removed from the original. And I do agree that it keeps HP relevant. I just think the HBO show keeps it way more relevant than a book that some people won't even know is based on fan fiction. And here is an example of like, bringing attention to this and someone's like, okay. So Rose in Chains by Julie Soto started as an HP fanfiction. I haven't heard anything about it, but I got it as the Fairy Loot subscription for this month. And Jana says, it started as the auction. It's similar to the auction, but it's not HP fanfiction anymore. And she says, oh, I never read Harry Potter. Thanks for the info. So, like, I don't think that's going to deter her from reading it, and that's a shame. So now she's back from her vacation or social media break or whatever it is. And she's definitely not making things better for herself, because this is what she decided to post when she returned. Hi, by Don Martin. How much money did you make off the video you made shaming me for turning off my comments? That's, I think, the video we already saw. Weird move from an author who thinks you shouldn't make a monetized platform talking about publishing drama. For the record, I am not an aspiring author, and I don't know why you feel confident lying about me saying that many times while confidently using your monetized author TikTok to talk about the publishing industry. I don't know why you're unable to click the links you shamed me for making, but if you had, you would know a few things about me. 1. I turned off my Substack monetization on June 28th when I told my followers I was going out of town for a week. 2. I have long COVID. As an able-bodied person, perhaps you could grant me the courtesy during Disability Pride Month to let me explain what that means. My official diagnosis is ME/CFS, chronic fatigue, and my main symptom is post-exertion malaise, PEM. These are conditions that do not have a cure at this time. The only medical known way to treat these conditions is called energy pacing. Energy pacing is a practice where the disabled person learns through trial and error how much their body can do without having a symptom flare, and then holds to that pacing plan. Only around 20% of people can ever add time to this plan. But by sticking to it, you can keep from getting worse. This is where the PEM comes in. For my condition, I rarely feel tired in the moment, but if I do not stick to my plan, then 2 hours or 2 days or 2 weeks later, my body reacts and every speck of energy leaves my body. I had told people I would not be available for much of this week because I was leaving town. What I did not tell people is that I was going to meet up with my friends for the first time in 3 years. Since I developed long COVID, I have not seen anyone in person besides my husband and my doctor since last Thanksgiving. So I tried to hold my boundary because we were hoping that by following my pacing plan and avoiding all use of energy on Thursday, I would be able to travel on Friday and see my friends for 1 hour on Saturday without triggering PEM. We knew that it was very likely, no matter what I did, that I would have to spend a week in bed recovering from this 1 hour visit. But we were hoping that it would be just 1 week, not a month-long crash like I had after Thanksgiving. I do not know why you think it's appropriate to mock my boundaries on your 400K plus platform that I assume is monetized, and I really don't know why you're comfortable doing that without actually researching how I talk about publishing. Because while I post about book drama every Monday, I don't name names, and I certainly don't post multiple times a day with full screenshots mocking people. I don't go into apology comments like this either, and then there's a screenshot, ha 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 ha. Sure, Jana, quote, I said what I said. But I do always include myself when I misstep. And while I haven't said many times that I am an aspiring author, I have said that the reason that I do not name names in my wrap-up is because I think the behavior is bad, not the person, usually. Now, I'm not going to pretend like I'm a saint who's never been snarky because that would be a lie. I really don't understand why you think it's appropriate or helpful to leave the conversation about the trans community behind to just continuously post about me not being available for your public shaming. Was it 6 posts across social media, or did I miss some of them? But I hope you enjoy the revenue boost you got from the 20K views you've received. Maybe you could also join me in donating. To everyone else, I will hopefully be back in a week. I know I owe a lot of people apologies for being dismissive and not listening. I'm aware of what I said, and I'm not going to try to deny the harm I caused to many people, especially the trans community. I am sorry that I haven't been available to fully listen and respond to you and will not be available for a little while longer. And Don Martin says, Jana, I'd maybe quit interacting with the cis folks calling you out and instead go engage with the trans folks you've been ignoring in all of this. Thank you. She's trying really hard to avoid us. Like, imagine thinking the right move as a cis white lady embracing the transphobes IP is to try a call out of queer people. It's giving deflection. It's giving straw man. Also, using disability to explain away bad behavior is weak. I have multiple autoimmune disorders and frequently struggle to get through my daily tasks. I still manage to not offend an entire community, then tell them why I haven't apologized yet, while typing out multiple posts calling out a member of the LGBTQ plus community for pointing out my transgressions. It doesn't look great when it's laid out like this. So obviously, this was not the move. Instead of her first post after a hiatus being something addressing the trans community, she decided to defend herself against Don Martin and somehow explain away her behavior because she has long COVID. I do think that she has a right to say what she needs to in regards to him, but this should absolutely not be what she's prioritizing with her limited energy. So now we have an 8-part threads from a disabled trans man with the username Miles to Go Before I Read. The struggle with Jana and books continues. Thoughts from a disabled trans man. There's some of you who are new here, so I'll preface this with that I occasionally talk about my POTS diagnosis and journey on my Instagram. I am unfortunately no stranger to no or low energy days. Some days I can't even go to work or do anything because I can't get out of bed. There was a stretch of about 3 years where I went nowhere but work 10 minutes from my home when I did go to work, the gas station, and home. I didn't even go to the doctor and ignored all my symptoms and problems because every time I tried to go anywhere outside of my little comfort zone, I would find myself feeling so ill that I felt like I was going to pass out and throw up at the same time. My relationships with my friends struggled, my relationships with my family struggled. I barely went out and saw anyone or did anything. So to say that I understand Jana's struggles is a vast understatement. For Jana to come back from her vacation, which she has apparently been on since the 28th of June, and make a 10-part thread about Don Martin and how he is coming after her for monetization purpose only is one thing. But what I find funny is that in her 10-part post, she detailed her disability and how it makes it hard for her to do a lot of things. I understand that, I do. She also went on to say that she would not be responding to any of the comments that trans people had sent her way until she got back, and then a couple weeks after that. What I don't understand is, if she decided to exert her energy toward one of two things, one being Don Martin and two being all the trans people who are desperately begging for her to listen to us, why did she choose Don? Don is a member of the LGBTQ community, yes, but he is not transgender. While I do appreciate seeing somebody having something to say with a platform as big as his, I do agree with Jana that he went too far in his comments on her post. If he wanted people to be serious about this and take his thoughts about her seriously, then he should not have been in her comment section acting like the child he was. But Don Martin is far from the issue here. The issue is that Jana is using her disability as a crutch and as an excuse to continue to not respond to trans people and their issues with what she has been saying lately. I, at this point, don't have very much faith in her that she is going to come back from her vacation and actually address the issues that trans people have been asking her to address, along with their comments that she has not been replying to the whole time while she has been replying to cis people's comments. If she's on vacation because this is the first time she's going to be able to see her friends due to her limitations for disability has placed on her, then I don't think responding to only cis people's comments is the direction she needs to be taking right now. All of this has unfolded within the past 4 days, and it is the 6th of July, so when this started unfolding, she was already on her vacation according to her own timeline. She had the time on her own vacation to post that she was going to talk about books that were based off of a harmful IP, and that you can feel free to mute her if you don't want to hear about it, and then also had time to respond to cis people, all while on vacation. Now, I'm far from the type of person to say what someone can and can't do on their vacation, but if the point of your 10-part post is to say that this is your vacation and time to be with friends, and that you don't have the energy to do a lot of things, then maybe you shouldn't be making posts like you're doing while you're on said vacation. I will be surprised if trans people start getting responses when she comes back from her extended break. I won't hold my breath. And this sums up a lot of my thoughts as well. Now, she did start to respond to posts like this, and while it's hard to distinguish tone in writing, I'm going to choose to be hopeful that she is being entirely sincere. She says, "Thank you for taking the time to share how my actions have affected you. I will be taking time to read and reflect on your post. If you would like to share any further action steps you would like from me, I am open to hearing from you. That is just an offer, not an expectation." I feel like she maybe could have worded that better, but if she is sincere, okay. Libra Vermo, I am also disabled and 100% understand the whole spoon situation. I also understand that she said Don was saying these things about her that were untrue, and she wanted to correct him. I get the human need to stand up for yourself when you feel attacked. But why did it have to be a huge defense thread only? She could have started off with a serious apology or with some kind of message to trans people about all of this, and then added a correlation to the misinformation at the end if she needed to. And a user named Tasha L. Harrison reposted her thread and said this. Once again, girl, what? Absolutely the fuck not. Your whole shtick is shaming people with lady whistle threads, and more importantly, you obviously need to be shamed. Any coins Don made were facilitated by your dismissive and self-centered behavior. And then she, like, attached Jana's call out of Dawn. She says, the goal of my I said what I said and people are obviously going to say what they will say was to recognize that. But people shared that came across as doubling down. So since that was not my intention, I posted my apology instead of holding to my boundaries about responding thoughtfully when I was back online. I said in this post that I'm clearly not an angel on Threads, and everyone is well within their rights to tell me how my words made them feel, and I will be doing further work. I do want to kind of like say that I can see where she's coming from in that, like, the tone of something, you know, doesn't necessarily come through in writing. And so she says, I said what I said, and people are going to say what they're going to say. In my, like, view, that could definitely be taken as, like, it's a kind of, like, what's done is done, and so here we go forward. Not like, I said what I said, you know what I mean? But again, that's very much giving her the benefit of the doubt, but that is kind of how I read it to begin with. That's not to excuse all the other stuff, but I don't know. That's kind of, she had already pissed people off, so I feel like they were on the defensive, and, like, anything she said that could have been taken poorly would have been. I hope that makes sense. And doesn't come off like I'm trying to tell someone how her words should be taken when I really have no idea. I'm just interpreting them on my own. Tell this to every trans author that commented. Get out of my mentions with it. She says, I've responded to the comments that I saw. I didn't reply to this initially because you said to get out of your mentions, so I assumed you did not want me to continue to respond to you. Tasha says, you need to understand that your explanations and defensiveness are not serving you. I'm pointing that out. No one needs to coddle you through your lesson, and I definitely won't be. You're too involved in the book world to be this dismissive about it. The end response should have been the first. And she says, you're right. I made Don's post about me instead of focusing on the harm I caused. His post also focused on me personally and not the harm I was causing while lying and doing the behaviors he was accusing me of. And I don't think that's helpful. I'm not going to call anyone out for sharing about the harm I caused, and I'm trying to reach out to people personally to see if they want a private or public apology because I want to respect other people's boundaries. Girl, you're literally doing it again. Go away. You're a brick wall. And she kind of feels like it's impossible for her to just, like, apologize flat out, as in not doing, like, a sorry but kind of thing. But then Jana made a post of her own. I'm trying to catch up. I am seeing a lot of people saying that there are specific individuals I should be responding to. If you are one of the trans creators that have been hurt by my radio silence, I have not been on Threads since Wednesday and have not been purposely ignoring you. I'm not sure how to find you or if me responding to you will cause further harm. If you would like to DM me or respond here, I should be available for the rest of the day. I'm having a little difficulty navigating who wants me to reach out to them individually or who will be further harmed by me invading their space. I'm sorry for hurting you, and I'm looking to find the best ways to apologize that are not dismissive or making the situation about me, which I recognize I have done. What I will not tolerate is people making up information about me and doing the same actions that they are shaming me for. Girl, you were so close. If you had just left that last little bit off, it would have really, I think, been a different post. But that just, ugh. So I'm not entirely sure what she's saying is made up, other than, I guess, Dawn saying she's an aspiring author when she isn't. Which doesn't seem like that big a deal to me, at least, but unless I'm missing something, which of course is always possible. So to that, Lisa Can't Even says, what information is made up, Jana? Be transparent. And she says, I was referring to my previous post, which is the one about Dawn. I don't really know. LM Ramirez says, serious question. If you genuinely want to catch up, why not have your husband go through your notifications and pull out the trans people who commented, quoted, or tagged you? I get that you got a lot of notifications, but there are multiple trans people you didn't respond to Wednesday or Thursday, and folks are understandably skeptical that you claim to have no idea who these people are when we all know how notifications work. And she says, I didn't get notified about this comment, so I'm not sure people know how glitchy Threads notifications get when there are a lot of them. I understand that people do not owe me any additional labor, but if we can't find these posts, I don't know how else to find them. My husband is not available today, but that is a good idea for us to try tomorrow. And she says, if you didn't delete it, you would be able to see all the comments on your original post. No one is asking to keep giving context for your poor choices. You have largely lost this audience trust. So I didn't get notified about this comment, so I'm not sure people know how glitchy Threads notifications is irrelevant because people don't trust you. Stop explaining why, stop focusing on Dawn, and do the hard work of digging through your comments and quotes manually then. So finally, she started another thread. I'm going to have to turn off my comments if people keep mocking my disability. I explained why I was offline for 3 days, and I tried to explain how my disability will affect my response time. I did not say it was okay for me to post what I did, and I have tried to communicate that I understand people are allowed to talk about me. I know that I said what I said, and I have to face the consequences of that. But it's not okay to be ableist because you're mad at someone. She has a couple people, like, kind of supporting her, but most of the comments were basically more of the same, like, you aren't listening! So then Don made another post about the situation. Okay, he says, you guys get ready. Looks like I can almost afford a large dirty chai from my local coffee shop. People seem to think TikTok is this gold mine, and it is not. And then he posts this screenshot of what he, like, I guess earned for the video about her. 20,541 views, the playtime, average watch time. Only 5.42% watched the full video, and he made $9.79 on that TikTok. And then he says, but if you want to help me break $10, and he reposts it. Jana says, valid point, but my larger question is what makes you a person who is allowed to monetize off book drama but not me? You are an author. I am not an aspiring author, but you claim I've said this many times as you continue to demand my attention. If I respond to you, I'm ignoring the issue. If I don't, you keep posting about me. Nobody said you're not allowed. I said when you make your whole thing being the gossip lady, you're putting yourself into a category similar to call-out accounts. Audiences aren't there for you, they're there for gossip. Eventually, you'll become the hot gossip, and the leopards you've been feeding will decide your face looks tasty. Finally, I told readers that instead of following a gossip account, they could follow authors, prioritizing marginalized voices. We'll tell you all the tea for free. Also, I don't keep posting about you. I've been posting about dead kids in Texas. I'm also not the only voice who made multiple posts on Friday, but I'm the one you felt most secure engaging with. So this is where I'm deciding to tap out. Because A, that's like all I have right now, and B, it's kind of getting into these two personally beefing, which is not what I'm trying to report on. What I want to focus on is listening to marginalized voices when they tell you something is harmful. I have yet to meet or hear about a single trans person who feels comfortable with the things J.K. Rowling is spewing out. And that's not to say people like that don't exist, but if one trans person says it's harmful, I'm going to believe them. Was it a tough pill to swallow that an author whose stories so many of us fell in love with is an absolute trash human? Of course. But at the end of the day, this is a fictional wizard world, and it's so not important compared to actual human beings and the way people are trying to erase their existence every single day. And I am fully ready to admit that there was a time when I didn't see the harm in holding onto Harry Potter books and merch that I already owned. But one of my lovely viewers once pointed out how my Harry Potter books were in the background of videos I made, and it made them wonder if I'm truly a safe person, and I really took that to heart. And to this day, I still think about it all the time. And it's the same conversation as this, I think. Sure, I'm not financially supporting JK more than I did when I purchased them, but I'm giving her IP attention, which is very much something I don't want to do. And I had something similar happen to me at work recently. My union has pins for like different things. There's like a pride pin, there's like a Black Lives Matter pin. And I was wearing my Black Lives Matter union pin, and I had a coworker who is Black say to me that like they feel really relieved when they see people wearing those because they don't feel like it just takes off a layer of like anxiety, I guess, that they don't have to worry about what kind of person they're working with. And that's another thing that's like such a good example of kind of the same thing is like I always want to be seen as someone that's safe, that's approachable, that people can be who they are with, and they know that like I'm on their side. You know what I'm talking about, the kind of people. And so, yeah, I really should go back and remember and like figure out who it was that said that, because that made such a huge like impact on my life. I'm currently in the process of working on a tattoo cover up. I have a golden snitch tattoo and I want it off of my body, and I know I can't get it off, but I want it hidden, I guess. And that is something I have been reaching out to artists trying to figure out exactly what to do with it. And I can't wait till it's not there anymore and I don't have that, like, maybe, like, giving people the indication that I'm okay with any of J.K. Rowling's words or actions. And obviously that's not who I am and that's not what I want to be showing. So enough about me. Cis people, such as myself, don't get to decide what's harmful to trans people. Full stop, end of discussion. So that's really what I want to say with this video. And of course that goes for all marginalized groups. That aside, let me know what you think about how all this went down, whether you think Jana was judged too harshly and all that. I'm all for giving people the benefit of the doubt, and I don't know her, but based on what I've seen, I'm kind of skeptical of her truly believing what she says. So down in the description, I have listed a whole bunch of books by trans authors that I have either read or been recommended by fellow readers that you should definitely pick up instead of the 2 books in question or any Harry Potter books. And like I said, these are all by trans authors. A lot of them have trans characters, and these are definitely a better use of your time than reading Harry Potter. And additionally, I have a few of my favorites by trans authors that I want to tell you about. If I wasn't so lazy, I would get up and show you them, but I'll put a nice little picture. So the first one is Second Chances in Newport Stephen by TJ Alexander. And this is about a trans man who returns to his hometown for the first time in many years and the first time post-transition. And he runs into his high school sweetheart who didn't know that he had come out as trans. And it's just such a sweet and beautiful story. I loved this so much. It's a Christmas story, but it's not. Like, it takes place around Christmas, but that's not really crucial to the plot. Read this any time of year. Just read it. Another one is Mad Honey by Jennifer Finney Boylan and Jodi Picoult. Jennifer is trans and Jodi is not, but it is a really good book. It's done really well, and I honestly don't even want to give a synopsis because there's a big twist and it's just too good, and I feel like, yeah. And another one is Felix Ever After by Kaysen Callender. So this is a young adult book about a Black queer trans teen who begins getting anonymous transphobic texts, and then the same person posts his pre-transition pictures and dead name for all to see. And when he figures out who did it, he comes up with a plan for revenge that does not play out as intended. All of these were 5-star reads for me, and I wholeheartedly recommend them. So definitely let me know what you think about all this in the comments, and if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more just like it, make sure you are subscribed. I do also have a Patreon if you are interested in supporting me over there, and I will see you in the next one. Bye! Okay, I know I just said bye, but I also kind of just want to throw out there that if I'm ever doing something in this vein, if I'm saying something ignorant, if I'm doing something offensive, tell me. Please call me out on it, because that is the last thing I ever want to do, and if I'm doing something like that, it's almost definitely unintentional, and I want to grow and learn. It's not your job to do the work for me, but it would be really helpful if there's something I'm saying or doing that is not what you think I should, and you could just tell me so we can fix it. Okay, that's all. Bye!